Hello, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to Satsang. Satsang is an ancient spiritual practice from India. It means being in reality together. I give Satsang live every Wednesday and Sunday night in Portland, Maine. This Dharma talk was recorded during one of our Wednesday night gatherings. Please visit jayakula.org to learn more about the teachings. You can find video satsangs on Jayakula's YouTube channel, and my books are all available on Amazon.com. Much love to you, wherever and however you are. The tradition that I teach in is from North India, largely from Kashmir, and it's one of what are called the direct realization traditions. My secondary tradition, Dzogchen, is also one of these. This is a tradition from Tibet. And then the tradition of Chan Buddhism also falls into this category. And the nutshell version of what a direct realization tradition is, it's a set of practices that help you to open your senses so that you can directly perceive with your own body, energy, and mind the nature of yourself and of reality. So we work with a teacher, we work with practices like mantra and meditation and Kriya Yoga and what's called Guru Yoga and ritual. We have the idea that we have this huge toolbox and we should use whatever works for us. But the essence of the tradition is that you have already built into you the capacity to perceive and know the nature of reality of yourself, aka also you could say the nature of God. They're all the same thing. So these are traditions that don't encourage attitudes of belief and faith. They encourage you to find out for yourself. And in fact, this is what is called a Satguru, your main guru, Anandamayi Ma, always taught. She said, find out. You go find out by doing your practice, by working with the teacher, by opening your senses to this such a profound degree that you're able to perceive your own essence nature and have your experience be from that place rather than from the place of habitual, conventional patterns that we call karma. So that's it in a nutshell. All of the direct realization traditions function pretty much the same way, where they are trying to give you the tools to recognize for yourself who you are. And within those traditions, the teacher is important because as I like to say, a kind of appliance. The teacher is there to guide you, of course, but also to help you to have an experience of your own nature, even before you have done very much practice or realized very much. And this is called transmission. So in all of the direct realization traditions, this what is called transmission is very important. In other words, that you have a teacher who has realized at least some fruits of the practice so that they can, in some way or another, give you a kind of a hit of that fruit and an experience of that, a direct experience, so that you know where you're going, so that you have a beacon for yourself. So that's the other part, is this idea of transmission. Does anybody want to ask any questions about what I just said or make any comments?
Is transmission a spiritual experience, or is it just sharing information, or how does that usually work?
Mm-hmm. It is an experience. Definitely an experience, not information. In direct realization traditions, we don't make any distinction between spiritual and non-spiritual. Everything that's here is that enlightened consciousness and energy. And the divide between spiritual and secular is just a convention that we dispense with. And because we dispense with it, we are trying to use all of our lives, our regular everyday lives, to help us to wake up. And that's a whole other story. But to answer your question, even though we use the word transmission, it doesn't mean that the teacher's giving you anything you don't already have. So somehow through the alchemy of either informal or formal transmission, you are able to discover your own enlightened essence nature through the experience of the teacher. So what transmission really means is that through that alchemy of the teacher and the student together, you are able to recognize that you already have that enlightened essence nature from the beginning. Some people say, oh, the teacher's giving you energy or something like that. That's really not true. So somehow, and it could just happen informally too. You know, you're out at the supermarket with the teacher. It's not necessarily something formal, but it can be. Some of the ways that transmission is given formally is like eye to eye, or through touch, or through mantra, or various things. But in general, even just sitting around like this, you can receive transmission. And the other part of it is your condition. It's really the teacher and the student together that make that possible. So in a sense, your senses, your body, energy, and mind, and we consider the mind to be a sense organ in this tradition, your body, energy, and mind already have to be a little receptive to this. If your senses are not refined enough, you won't even notice anything's happening. And then everyone will have very, very different experiences. The problem with talking about this is that people can get into this attitude that like they're impoverished and they need something that the teacher has that they don't have. And we absolutely don't have that point of view.
You talked about that Trika Shaivism and Dzogchen are self-realization traditions.
Direct realization.
Direct realization. Mm-hmm. Is that not true of all yogic lineages then?
Not necessarily. Many of them use the language of faith and belief, and they have a different point of view than we do. But, I mean, nonetheless, you do find things out for yourself. I mean, no one can stop you from doing it. But
no, I was just curious. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just answering your curiosity, I hope. So, many traditions say that God has a different nature than human beings, or that the teacher has a different nature than the students, or that you have to believe in this and believe in that and have faith in this and faith in that. So there's many kinds of traditions, and as Ma said, the reason we have all those traditions is because we have different people who need different traditions. Some people need desperately to believe and to have faith and to look up to something that they feel is superior to them, and that makes them feel relaxed. And that's how they can progress. Not everybody wants to be in this kind of tradition.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between belief or faith and view?
View is just a general term. It does come from the Indian and Tibetan traditions. It just means, what does your tradition have to say about the basic questions about reality? You know, how do things come to be? And what is a human being? And what is the nature of reality? And what is the nature of God? And what is the point of spiritual practice? And how should you orient yourself when you do practice? Those are view questions. And every tradition, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they all have view, whether they talk about it or not. They all have a view of a person and a view of God and a view of reality and a view of what spirituality is. In the Tibetan and Indian traditions, it's just more explicit that you receive view teaching so that you have a context for practicing. The question about it is about belief and faith versus confidence, not versus view. So when we say we believe in something or we have faith in something, we're making a leap. That's why we say leap of faith. We're making a leap. What are we making a leap over? We're making a leap over actually knowing something. So something sounds like what we want to be true, what we yearn to be true, or something is told to us by a person for whom we have a great deal of respect, and we have confidence in what they say. So we say, oh, I believe what you say. And then we feel comfortable. It's like having a container for our practice, whatever it is. And that's different. In this tradition, we say you receive transmission, you practice with the transmission, and then you have confidence in what you discover. So having confidence in what you discover means that you have actually perceived something for yourself and that it is incontrovertible, that you cannot doubt it. It is beyond doubting.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say that sometimes, like, I can really feel that, like what you're talking about, like the transmission, like today, like I can feel it, and I felt it before, but it's not something that I can always, be in touch with. And so I don't know. I guess it's maybe it's more difficult to feel that when we're not actually with you, like, because I'm far away. But I just wish that I had more of a sense for that.
Yeah.
More often, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I've been practicing now since I was 27. How many years is that? 33 years. And it's only in the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years that I felt continuously immersed in that. There were decades that went by when it was slipping away, coming and slipping away, coming and slipping away. And some of those times were extremely painful. Right? You find yourself immersed in living presence, and then it goes away for like 3 weeks. And it doesn't feel good, But the point is that it's only easier around the teacher for some period of time. I don't know how long that could be. It could be days, weeks, months, or lifetimes. Everybody is in a very different condition. No one's path is the same, and nobody is taking the same amount of time to discover. The point of the fact that you said that you have felt it is that having felt it, you must try to rediscover it in your seated practice. You have a beacon.
Yeah.
And this is where we get to the point of the practice where no one can tell you how to do it. The most important things no one can tell you how to do. You have to sit down. The formal practices that we do can help only to a certain point. But you have to bring all of your awareness and senses and intelligence into the encounter with living presence. If you just sit there and do practice hoping something will happen, well, something will happen, now and then. But a lot more will happen if you are being aware in that primordial way of you're going to meet something, you're investigating something, you're feeling your way into something. So you have that feeling of the transmission. Try to discover it when you're sitting on the cushion. Try to bring it back on. That's what it's for. It's not just to have some cool experience when you're with the teacher. It's for you to use. That's why I say the teacher is an appliance. It's for you to use.
Okay, thank you.
I was just curious, when you talk about transmission, I was kind of imagine it as you expanding your energy field and people kind of being able to be inside of that, but I know that can't be if it's, or maybe it can if it's happening over live stream like it does, so I don't totally understand.
Well, first of all, live stream means nothing. You can still connect to the transmission even though there's a live stream. And the way that you're describing everything is in very dualistic terms. There's no way to explain to the satisfaction of someone in the human realm what actually is going on. But the closest thing I can tell you is that what I'm doing when I'm consciously doing transmission, of course, right now I'm just sitting here, I'm not doing anything that I know of. But, when I'm consciously doing transmission, all I am doing is forgetting that there is any difference between anything. I'm just forgetting any distinction between any of you and me. And that's a subtle process. I can't really describe it. So I'm not, beaming my energy at you I don't know. I'm being in what's called Turiya, the fourth state, as to the depth that I am capable of, and which, might be the shallow end of the pool, but in any case, I'm doing it to the best of my ability. And and I'm just hoping that you feel included in that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have two questions, actually. One of them is, does a self-realized person have any subjective experience after that? Or is it just strictly the self or God or whatever you want to say operating through the puppet of a person?
Again, this is a dualistic way of encountering this, or of posing a question. So first of all of reality is a subjective experience. So there's nothing outside of subjective experience. And this is a very deep topic, but objectivity is an experience being created by a subjectivity. So it's sort of the opposite of what Western philosophy would have us believe. In any case, what is here is absolutely pristine awakeness, blazing clarity, and enjoyment of everything that has been created. So there's no such thing as puppets, right? In the sense that I am God showing up like this. There is nothing but blazing awakeness. Now, so what you could think of is what Abhinavagupta, one of the siddhas of this tradition, said: when we are unaware of our real nature, we are like the played. But when we become aware of our real nature, we become the player. And he said, be the player, not the played. So this idea that you could be the played is really just a description of a relative experience. But the absolute experience is a subjectivity experiencing unimaginable clarity, bliss, and awareness. Mm-hmm. There was a second question.
Yeah, I just don't want to hog it all.
That's okay. Hog away.
Okay. A while ago, before I came to Jaipur, about a couple years ago, I was really deep into meditation, had some very powerful, I guess you could call them mystical experiences or non-dual experiences and things like that. And then it dried up completely, and then life got really, really difficult. I wasn't sure, I was speaking with someone about this beforehand, I wasn't sure if there's some way to tell that you're in the dark night of the soul or if you're just deluding yourself in some way. Mm-hmm.
Well, if you think that there's something wrong because you're not always having great mystical experiences, then you are deluding yourself. So, when we do a meditation practice every single day, we sit there for however long we sit there. Every possible experience is going to arise, from great mystical experiences to boredom, to frustration, to hysteria, to uncontrollable giggles, to, every possible thing that could happen is going to happen. The dark night of the soul is a very specific kind of period of one's life. And it can happen there can be different versions of it. But basically, it is some period of time when you have been doing a lot of practice, when everything that you want is denied to you. Sometimes that can happen because we don't have guidance. And we're not having the right orientation to our practice. Sometimes it can happen because karma is being stripped away. But it is a trap, having had some mystical experience, to always be wanting to get back there. Yeah, so that can create a big obstacle in our practice. Big obstacle.
That's probably exactly what's going on right here. I haven't been able to go deep into meditation for about 2 years. So, yeah, very difficult.
Yeah, we have to learn how to deal with ourselves, and then we have to learn how to deal with other people. And that isn't a great mystical experience.
I had a couple really interesting conversations with people on the plane rides over here, and one of the things that came up in both of the conversations with these people was that they both had expressed a desire to be doing spiritual practice, but they felt like they had to be in a certain condition before they start doing practice. Like, in order to start a meditation practice, they had to have a quiet mind and stuff like that. You know, like, in order to do spiritual practice, you have to be at a certain level of relaxation to even begin that. And I thought it was interesting that both of the people I talked to expressed that.
Well, the only thing you need to have to start doing spiritual practice is the desire to do it. And the desire will just overcome whatever other conceptual obstacles you might have. In terms of doing meditation particularly, sometimes people do need to do other things first. And sometimes students here, we start with mantra instead of meditation because it's just easier for people when their energy is disorganized, and busy mind is a symptom of disorganized energy. So they need to do something that's more engaging and more external than meditation. Otherwise, they get too frustrated or they feel too antsy. But when people say stuff like that, really, all they're saying is, I don't feel like it, which is fine. But at least they're thinking about it, and then maybe some years from now, they'll actually feel like doing some. So you could reassure somebody that there's so many different spiritual practices. My God, there's like infinite numbers of practices. So there's really a practice for anybody that actually wants to do some practice. But it sounds like maybe they were just at the stage of just toying around with the idea of doing it, but still not really wanting to enough. You could just reassure somebody that when they're ready, they'll find the right thing for them. That's the best thing to do, I think.
This is my first time attending something here. I was curious about the role of the teacher. We've kind of talked a little bit about that already, but I guess within this tradition, maybe what is a teacher, or how does one become a teacher, or if you could expand on that.
In the direct realization traditions, your relationship with the teacher is said to be your main practice. So it doesn't mean you don't do other things, but relating to the teacher is the way that you start to learn how to follow nature, how to follow that communication that's coming to us from everywhere by paying attention to the subtleties of your relationship with the teacher. You start to subtleize your senses. You start to be able to follow subtle communications. And it's kind of like a training, right? And in that process, you really start to open your heart. So the teacher is kind of a gateway to opening your senses, opening your heart, so that you can do that with everyone, not just with the teacher. And of course, we have the community too, and that helps you in the same way. But the teacher's a more concentrated experience of that. The teacher's job is basically to guide you in sadhana that they have done and can lead you, all the little highways and byways of spiritual practice. The teacher's job is to show you or give you that beacon of transmission and to help you, to support you in learning how to perceive things for yourself. How one becomes a teacher in this tradition, I'm sure there are many different ways, but Anandamayi, my teacher, said there are teachers who go through lineages, who are, empowered by their teacher before them to become a teacher. And then she said there are also natural teachers who don't come through lineages.
On that same note, I was wondering, does a person have to surrender their will to the teacher?
No. What you have to do, if you want to work with a teacher, you have to recognize that teacher is going to show you your real nature. It's going to help you to recognize your real nature. You have to know that in following the instructions of that teacher, you are walking your own path to wisdom. You're not surrendering your will in the sense of, this is what the tradition demands and So I'm going to try to do this. It has to be something that feels really natural, that you actually recognize something in the teacher. You experience in the teacher what you want for yourself. And then you have the natural understanding that following the instructions of the teacher will get you what you want. So that's really the only way to follow the teacher. If people feel that in a very profound way, then they become superior disciples. And they learn that following is really the way in life 100%. The teacher is a condensation of nature. So this is called Guru Tattva in the Kashmiri tradition. Tattva means element. So Guru element is that aspect of all of reality that is guiding you toward discovering your real nature, toward waking up. Because we're kind of dunces, we can't recognize it in all of reality, right? For instance, the Yogin Dattatreya is said to have had 24 gurus, and one of them was a wasp, right? Most of us are not going to recognize wisdom in a wasp and follow a wasp. So we need to have wisdom show up in a form that we can identify with and feel attracted to, and that is another human being. So each teacher that has the ability to help you is just an aspect of that Guru Tattva, or an expression of that Guru Tattva. And since that is everywhere, we are receiving instructions from everywhere, but we just can't hear them. When we learn through love and recognition to follow the teacher and listen to the teacher, we are fine-tuning our hearing, and we're learning that following is really the path. That's the royal road. But not just following the teacher, following wisdom wherever we encounter it, in our own wisdom heart, everywhere. But we use the teacher as kind of like what is it called? Something that can make the sound louder for us. Right? A megaphone. Yeah, the teacher's like a megaphone for people who are partially deaf, so we can hear.
Do students, your initiated students, do they deal with you on a daily basis?
So the ones I live with do. This tradition has always functioned with the teacher being close to the students and living with them, basically, or living near them. But obviously, what people in the West Coast or elsewhere, that can't be the case. I keep trying to get them all to move here, but so far I've only been partially successful. The way that the relationship goes is up to the students. If someone wants to be around me every day, they could probably make that happen. But if I wanted them to be around me every day, I couldn't make that happen. I have very little power. Jayakula is a nonprofit community offering opportunities to learn and practice in the direct realization traditions of Trika Shaivism and Dzogchen. We are based in Portland, Maine and Portland, Oregon. Visit jayakula.org to explore more of our offerings.